How Ibrahim destroyed the idols. This story is best heard with closed eyes. Take a breath and listen with your heart. In the dusty alleyways of ancient Babylon, beneath a scorching sun by day and a grand celestial canopy by night, lived a young man named Ibrahim. He wasn't just young, he was insightful, with a mind that hungered for truth and a heart untouched by fear. Since childhood, he had sensed that something was profoundly wrong in a world where people bowed to stars, planets, and mute statues carved from wood and stone. Ibrahim tried to reach his father's heart, to tell him about the one Lord, the creator of the heavens and the earth. But his father brushed him off, turned away, as though his son's words were no more than dust in the wind. So Ibrahim turned his gaze to the people. He knew they believed that every planet was a god. The sun granted light and life. Venus ruled love. The moon guarded their nightly peace. They prayed to the celestial bodies, trusting in their supposed powers over every aspect of life. He didn't come to them with wrath, but with questions. One night, as the people gathered beneath the open sky, Ibrahim sat among them and pointed to a glowing point of light in the heavens, a planet, shining more brightly than the others. "Is that your God?" he asked. "What does it do?" They answered with confidence. "That one brings luck," said one. "That's the God of love," said another. "And that red one, he rules over war." They spoke of the planets and stars as rulers of fate, each with its own power and domain. Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. "Very well. Let us say this is our Lord. Then show me. How should I pray to it?" But before long, the planet they spoke of slipped below the horizon, vanishing into the dark. "Where is my God now?" Ibrahim asked. "He has set," they replied. "He'll rise again tomorrow night." "Can a God set?" he asked. "Can a God disappear and leave his people behind?" They had no answer. Some shrugged, others looked uneasy. Still Ibrahim continued. Later that night, the moon rose in its full brilliance, casting silver light across the earth. Ibrahim pointed to it and said, "There, this must be my God." But as dawn approached, even the moon began to fade, outshone by the first hints of day. Then came the sunrise. The people turned to him, smiling. "This is the greatest of all. Surely the sun is our true God. It gives us warmth, light, and life." Ibrahim looked toward the blazing sun and nodded once more. "Very well," he said, "let us worship the sun." But as evening fell, and the sun dipped behind the mountains, he stood and asked, "Where is your God now?" "He is gone." And then he said, "Is it truly worthy to worship that which comes and goes? Should a God rise and fall like any other creature? Should a God hide?" The people grew uneasy. Ibrahim had led them, gently and cleverly, to the truth, that the true God does not set, does not shrink, and does not vanish. Gathering the crowd, he proclaimed, "I renounce all these stars and planets, the sun and the moon. I turn my face toward the One, the Creator of the heavens and the earth. I am not among the idol worshippers." The people were shaken. Who was this bold youth who dared to challenge age-old traditions? Did he not fear the wrath of the gods? Did he not fear disaster? But Ibrahim stood firm. His words were like fire leaping through a dry forest, and whispers of his defiance reached the ears of the king himself, Nimrod. At first Nimrod was unconcerned. Let him talk. He hasn't done anything yet. But the day came when the young man did more than just speak. It was the morning of the festival. The city stirred early, for this was a day of celebration, of music and wine, of incense and sacrifice. The people, dressed in their finest, made their way beyond the city gates to gather in the open fields, where they would dance and feast beneath the sky. They invited Ibrahim to come with them, but he looked to the heavens and said quietly, "I am ill." Not a bodily sickness. It was his soul that ached from the stench of idol worship. For how could he rejoice while falsehood reigned in the hearts of his people? And so he remained behind, alone in the city emptied of its crowds. Only the wind whispered through the streets, and the sanctuary of idols stood in its solemn stillness, surrounded by offerings, fruits, bread, wine, left at the feet of stone and wooden shapes. Ibrahim stepped inside. The air was heavy, thick with silence and the scent of smoke. Towering idols loomed before him, gods with lifeless eyes and frozen mouths, draped in cloth and gold. They had been given food, but they could not eat. They had been showered with gifts, but could not so much as raise a hand. He approached them slowly, like a man speaking to the dead. "Why don't you eat?" he asked. "What's wrong? Why are you silent?" Of course there was no answer. There never had been. He stood in the center of them, a single figure breathing among the breathless, and in his hand he gripped an axe. He raised it. With a swing, he struck. The first idol fell with a dull, echoing crack. Then another and another. Stone split, wood splintered. The sanctuary rang with the thunder of falling gods. He moved with purpose, with fury, with sorrow, for these lifeless figures had stolen the devotion of hearts meant for the living one. He smashed them all, save one, the largest among them, the so-called chief deity. To this one he did not raise his hand. Instead, he took the axe, the very weapon of truth, and placed it gently in the idol's lifeless hands, as if to say, "Ask him. Let him speak for the rest." When it was done, the shrine was a ruin. The floor was littered with broken limbs and shattered faces. Offerings lay scattered among the debris. Food for mouths that never spoke, gifts for gods that never were. And so Ibrahim, a youth with fire in his soul, ignited a story for the ages. A story where truth dares to stand alone, and falsehood falls with a single swing of an axe. He stepped out into the quiet city, knowing the storm would come, knowing they would rage, accuse, punish. But he also knew lies must fall before truth can rise. The sun had begun its slow descent when the people returned to the city, their laughter still echoing from the fields, their hands sticky with dates and wine. But as they approached the sanctuary, a strange silence met them. Not the stillness of reverence, but a void, like breath held in dread. And then they saw it. Gasps rippled through the crowd like wind across dry leaves. Some froze, others rushed forward. What met their eyes was unthinkable. The gods shattered, limbs torn, faces smashed, dust choking the once sacred hall. "Who has done this?" they cried. "Who would dare?" Their rage rose quickly, searching for someone to blame. And then someone noticed the great idol, the only one left standing, with the axe resting in its arms like a silent accusation. Murmurs turned to whispers, and whispers became questions. Could it have been him? But even before they spoke his name aloud, many knew. For who else but the boy who spoke of one unseen God? Who else but the one who mocked their rituals with quiet defiance? Who else but Ibrahim? They summoned him, dragged him before the gathering. The elders, the priests, the craftsmen who had carved the idols with their own hands, all stared him down with fury in their eyes. "Was it you, Ibrahim?" they demanded. "Did you destroy our gods?" He looked at them calmly, eyes unflinching. "Ask the one who holds the axe," he said, gesturing toward the great idol. "If he can speak, let him tell you what happened." For a moment, silence, then a ripple of confusion, of discomfort. Some looked at the idol, others at each other. Their mouths opened, but no words came. "You know he cannot speak," someone said at last. And Ibrahim stepped forward, his voice steady as stone. "Then why do you worship that which cannot answer you? Why do you pray to what neither sees, nor hears, nor speaks? Why kneel before what cannot lift its own hand, even to save itself?" His words cut deeper than the axe, for in their hearts they knew he was right. Their gods had been broken, but their faith had been crumbling long before. Yet truth, when it burns too bright, often draws not reverence, but wrath. The murmurs rose again, angry now, defensive. A priest shouted, "This is blasphemy!" Another cried, "He must be punished!" And so they seized him, not for lying, but for telling a truth they were not ready to bear. They bound his hands and dragged him through the streets, not like a criminal. No, worse, as though he were a threat to the very sky, a danger to the order they clung to. Children peeked from doorways, women turned their faces away. The crowd grew larger, hungrier, not just for justice, but for spectacle. At the palace gates, the guards parted. The name Ibrahim had already reached the throne. King Nimrod sat in a chamber thick with incense and pride. He was a man who believed himself divine, a ruler not just of men, but of fate, and yet now stood before him a youth, barefoot, dust-covered, eyes clear as water, who had dared to challenge not only the king's gods, but the very notion of kingship itself. "You," Nimrod said, voice low, "you destroyed the idols?" "I did," Ibrahim answered, no trembling, no plea. The court gasped. "And why?" the king asked. "Because they are false," Ibrahim replied, "because they cannot help you, because there is one greater than all your stone and gold, the one who gives life and takes it, who brings the sun each morning and the stars each night." "Then let your God save you," Nimrod said, rising from his throne, "for I shall have you burned." The sentence was swift. No trial, no debate. The crowd wanted a flame, and the king would give it to them. They began at once, gathering wood, stacking logs high into a monstrous pyre. So great was the fire they built that none could approach it. The heat alone kept men at a distance, so they devised a solution, a great catapult. Ibrahim would be flung into the heart of the blaze, and as they bound him once more, even the sky seemed to hold its breath. But Ibrahim's heart did not tremble. He did not cry out. He did not curse them. Instead, his lips moved in silent prayer, and the Lord of the heavens and the earth heard him. At the moment when the ropes were released and Ibrahim soared through the air toward the inferno, a command was given, not by Nimrod, but by the one whose word is be, and it is. "O fire," said the Lord, "be cool and safe for Ibrahim." And the fire, once wild and ravenous, obeyed. Flames curled around him like gentle silk. The logs hissed, but they did not burn. The smoke rose, but it carried no ash of flesh. Time passed. The fire raged, and still Ibrahim stood within it, untouched, calm, alive. When the crowd saw it, they stepped back in awe. Some whispered, others fled, and Nimrod, proud Nimrod, could only stare. The one he had condemned still lived. The fire had submitted to a power higher than the king. The fire eventually died, not in triumph, but in surrender. The smoke drifted away like a defeated army, and from the heart of the ashes, Ibrahim stepped forth. His clothes were not singed. His hair bore no trace of flame. He walked as one returning from prayer, not from punishment. The people who had once shouted for his death now stood silent, their faces pale with fear and awe. Some fell to their knees, others turned away, unable to look him in the eyes. The whispers began again, but this time they carried something new, something dangerous for kings and priests alike. Doubt. "He lived," they said. "The fire did not touch him. His God must be real." Nimrod heard it too. He felt the ground shift beneath the throne he thought eternal. Power, he knew, lay not just in weapons and gold, but in belief. And belief had begun to slip from his grasp. He summoned Ibrahim again, hoping to reclaim authority with words. "Who is this God of yours?" he demanded. "That fire obeys him?" "He is the one who gives life and causes death," Ibrahim replied calmly. "Then I too give life and death," said Nimrod. "I can free a man, or have him killed." Ibrahim did not flinch. "You do not give life. You merely choose who dies first. If you are as mighty as you say, then make the sun rise in the west." Nimrod said nothing, for there even kings must fall silent. And so Ibrahim left, not with guards or gold, but with truth as his companion. He walked away from Babylon, away from its broken idols and trembling lies. He walked not in exile, but in purpose, into a future that only the one God could see. He would become a wanderer, a patriarch, a prophet. From his footsteps would rise generations, and from his unwavering faith a covenant eternal. But that is another chapter. For now, the boy who walked through fire had become the man through whom light would shine.